Hello, great ones. Welcome to the relaunching of my YouTube channel. I just completed season 1 during the whole pandemic of the Living Me Great podcast, and I am transferring all the episodes over to my YouTube so that my new YouTube audience gets a dose of what my content is about. Please like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy the show. Hello, great ones. Welcome to the Live and Be Great podcast. I'm your host, Latonya Sampson-McDonald. I am a life coach and a registered marriage and family therapist associate. And this podcast was created to motivate, educate, and inspire all to live and be great. On today's episode, I want to talk about how people in today's society are often more focused on looking the part than they are being the part. And there's an old phrase that goes with that. It's called keeping up with the Joneses. I'm sure many of you have heard that term before. Maybe you use a different last name, the Smith, I don't know. But especially with social media and even before social media, I think we live in a society that is flashy and we judge people based off of what they have, what they've accomplished, than who they actually are, their character as a person. So I definitely feel like that is an important topic to discuss. And it came to me because I know that more people are stuck at home, so more people are spending more time on social media. Also, we look at certain, I want to say, lifestyles as human beings. Like, it's normal to look at certain lifestyles, certain people as inspiration. Oh, this is what I want to aspire to have or aspire to be. Because there is more pressure on doing what the societal norms are than it is actually doing something different and doing something your own way. People tend to look down on you if you don't, quote unquote, follow the rules, right? Like, I've talked about it before. When you are told to go to school, get good grades, get a job, get a spouse, have some kids, get a house, get a car. That's usually, what the norm is. And sometimes when people don't aspire to that and they choose to do something else or be passionate about something else or just put their energy elsewhere, they can be shamed. Like women, if they don't have a husband or a child by a certain age, they get shunned. Men, if they don't have a house and a car and, they don't excel in their careers, they get shunned. And, should you decide to deter from that, should the man decide to be a house dad or the woman decide to be a career woman and focus on her career, or both the couple decide not to have kids but just to put their energy and passion and love somewhere else, there's a disconnect. Or if you don't do the norm, get a high paying job, or if you want to focus on your passion, the thing that makes you happy, you can often find yourself in spaces where you feel discouraged. And a lot of the times, if you're not secure in who you are, if you haven't healed from your influences in your life, any past trauma, you can easily be swayed. Like, for instance, I honestly, and I hope I don't get vilified for saying this, but I honestly when I look at people in high positions, that you can tell it's all about, let me keep up with the latest trend. Like, you don't really see happiness. And then these people, when you dig up their background, they have so many flaws, like corruption and, and fraud and, maybe cheating and all sorts of crime, like abuse. And this person is really a jerk, in person. And these are the people that we look up to. And I want to, make it known. I want people to realize that we can't look at people that supposedly fit the mold of societal standards as God, as the end all be all, and I must compare myself to this if I'm going to be worth anything. But it's like, worthy to who? Who are you striving to be worthy to? And I think the only person you should be striving to be worthy to is yourself. I apologize in advance if you guys hear any dogs barking. They always want to bark when I do my podcast. Or fireworks. Like, it never fails. But I'm still going to get this message out. Not going to let it stop me. Why? Because as long as it's a good podcast to me, it's going to be a good podcast to somebody. Like, I have to practice what I preach when it comes to me not keeping up with the Joneses, Of course, we want to have inspiration. We want to be able to look up to people, we're human beings are beings that thrive on support, thrive on being understood and validated. And I think that is okay. But the main source to sustain anything that you want to accomplish in this lifetime, I believe, is that if you, without a shadow of a doubt, know that you're doing the right thing in every fiber of your being. And that is what I want people to be able to focus on. Just talking to people about certain things and like looking at these celebrities and all these different allegations. And I want to say this, especially when it comes to the Me Too movement. All right, I'm just going to dive right in. Sorry if I'm jumping around, but I'm very passionate about this topic. When it comes to the Me Too movement, and you have women voicing, their trauma and what happened to them, right? A lot of times, people often equate success, like I said, with materials and status versus your mental being all right, feeling good all around as a person, doing the work to heal yourself. Like, okay, if I want to be a doctor, why do I want to be a doctor? Is it just because I want people to call me Dr. So-and-so? Or am I truly passionate about it? If I want to be, CEO of a particular company, am I really passionate about the work that I do? Or am I doing it to please whatever social group that I want to be a part of? And a lot of times, people around you condone the behavior because they're benefiting off of the behavior. Like, I'm looking at, certain artists, musical artists, actors, people in the entertainment industry. When it relates to music, for instance, some of the absolute best work when it comes to this art thing is it comes from pain, right? And please believe that these record execs, your manager, the PR person, anybody around you that is asking for a percentage of your income, a lot of times they know this, right? They know that, okay, For instance, I know people said that Mary J. Blige's best albums came out, like her best albums to this date are the albums when she wasn't with nobody, or she was going through some sort of trauma or some bad relationship, which could be accurate, because when you're in pain and you have a passion to do something, a lot of times you will use that passion as your therapy, and that is okay. But it can't stop there, because I can't dance everything away. Mary can't sing everything away. Denzel can't act everything away. Like, you really have to do the work and work on your trauma, or you'll end up seeing yourself in these same cycles and people condoning the behavior. Why? Because they're winning off of it, and they don't really care about you. It's a horrible thing to think about, but it's true. Like, the entertainment industry, really any industry that requires somebody on top, right? Somebody to look up to, there's often a lot of corruption behind it. Often a lot of corruption behind it. When it comes to, like, what was big in the news, the Harvey Weinstein, from talking to people and doing my own research, when it comes to rape, often it's not about, I just want to take something from you. A lot of times these people feel power when this happens. And from working with people who have been raped, people who have been molested when they were children, people who have been sexually assaulted, people who have been physically assaulted, abused, from working with these types of people, right? Especially with the children. Sometimes you can often see how the behavior came about. And I always go by the saying, because I haven't been proven wrong yet, that everybody that abuses have been abused. It's a learned behavior. And when you don't deal with that, when you don't heal from that, you'll either go the complete opposite, trying to protect everybody and be an advocate, or you'll go to the extreme and become an abuser. And it's like you're resentful because nobody protected you. That's honestly what it is. So when I work with clients who have either been abused or are on the way to becoming an abuser or have abused in some sort of way, the way to get them to stop is to always connect it back to their childhood, find out why they did that, show them why to do that. Even though I'm not saying that, okay, we need to be forgiven and not hold people accountable for their actions. No, always hold people accountable for their actions. But where the mental health portion comes in, where the therapist, my role is to get you to stop doing that behavior, right? So again, when people are disappointed, because I'm just like, man, there's so many people I have to cancel. Okay, so many people I have to cancel. It gets frustrating, when you found out something new every day. And I'm still like trying to process it myself. Some grace, especially, the Bill Cosby situation. Like, that was really America's favorite dad. It really was. And for a lot of Black people, that was who didn't have a father figure, or not only didn't have a father figure, didn't have a father that represented support and protection like the character did. Hearing these things, because, it's human. A lot of us will identify the character with the person because it has to come from you. And a lot of times actors, they use some of themselves into the character. So it's kind of difficult for a lot of people to separate from that. So it was kind of like finding out all these allegations about him was like finding out truths that were harmful for your perception of what he was or what he presented himself to be. And that is traumatic, right? And I don't take that lightly, because I put myself in that predicament, like how I felt finding out all these allegations. Like, you go through the stages of grief, actually, when you find out that somebody you looked up to has a horrible past. That's what you do. And that's how we have to look at it and be more understanding of people, but also still hold them accountable. And we have to stop allowing celebrity to be your God. Celebrity be your end all be all. And I think that can really, when you're able to separate, that can really help you decide what you need to do for yourself and not be so hard on yourself when you do not, I would say, attain an award that society will give you praise for, that you're looking for society to give you praise for. No, we got to work on what gives you praise for yourself, like what makes you feel worthy and what makes you feel accomplished based off of your heart and what you're passionate about. Another avenue, I should say, this topic relates to when it comes to keeping up with the Joneses, more focused on looking the part instead of actually being the part. Okay. Back to social media, social media depression is real. Okay. And it is, if anything, it's heightened by social media and people constantly comparing their lives to one another's lives. And I say time and time again, you have no idea what is really going on, because people show you a representation of themselves. Not everybody on Facebook, on Instagram, are really showing you the process behind that picture, right? And they have a right not to. They do, honestly. But if people really knew what was going on behind closed doors, I think you would take a second look. I really think so. I think that people out in a perfect world, people would just focus on what makes them happy, what brings you joy, right? Instead of comparing yourself. But because there are societal norms that exist, it's like, as a human, I feel like I'm supposed to naturally compare myself to whoever I feel is the best out there and get what they get. And when you see a CEO of a company jump off the top of the building and kill themselves, right? I said before on the previous episode or 2 or 3 back that is the scariest form of depression. Because society, America, I think this might be a world problem, but they have tricked people into thinking that what you have is going to bring you ultimate happiness. And that is the biggest lie ever told, because it's not true. It just isn't. It isn't. That, and I say it's scary. The scariest place is to have everything and still feel like nothing. Because it's like, if you can imagine, I've been told, okay, to work hard, play hard, whatever the case may be, work hard, everything will whatever this material thing, if I have this car, if I have the wife, if I have the husband, if I have the kids, whatever the case may be, I'm going to be happy. Why do you think the, postpartum depression exists? Right? Because your body goes through a whole lot of trauma. There's a lot of mental trauma that goes on with even carrying a child, a human life. Like there's so much, and I think people underestimate trauma in general. Pain in general, your childhood in general. People underestimate the work, the journey, and how, failures have an impact. Anybody trying to knock you off your course have an impact. What people say to you, who supports you, who doesn't support you, all that impacts you. For example, when I see the president that we have now, I don't see a grown man. A lot of times in his speech, I see somebody calling out for their father. I see a little boy that's like, look, Dad, I'm the president. Am I worthy of your love now? That's what I see. Okay. Not just him, but a lot of leaders that we have. But his is very evident. Okay. I teach you what to look for. Teach you a little bit of psychology. But, the speech is, a lot of times when he gives press conferences, it's like, okay, I think I done a good job. I think I did good. I. Oh, I'm going to have so many people coming to see me. It's going to be great. It's going to be big when I speak. It's a lot of and it's not necessarily about the people. It just isn't. It's about him getting credit for it and him feeling like something, feeling accomplished, right? Not to excuse him, okay, of his behavior, but to explain it so people understand it, what to look for. When you see somebody who has not healed, and when you notice these signs, you have to take a step back and reevaluate what you saw in the person to make you feel like, okay, I got to obtain what they obtained and do things the way that they did, because it's not all perfect. When people pass judgment on celebrities, they're human just like we are. Okay. In the news, we had Tamar Braxton. She's a singer, songwriter who was rushed to the hospital over a suicide attempt, right? Based off of, some trauma she had been dealing with. She's a reality TV star as well. So, they don't always portray Black women, especially, in the best light. They just don't. Like, you see the end product, the end result of their emotions, and you don't necessarily see the build up. You don't see that they're being provoked. You don't see that they're being told to talk about whatever subject. You don't see that they're being set up to give the producers the effect that they want, that they feel will bring more viewership in. Like, you don't see that part. So that can wear and tear on somebody, always having to perform and not being able to explain or for people to see all the different aspects of who they are. That can be very traumatic, and it can wear and tear. And it's a lot of reality show stars, especially Black women, Black entertainers, that have to go through that process to make money, to get put on, or whatever success, whatever stepping stone they're trying to use that as. Sometimes you can get stuck in that. And like I said earlier, people want to keep you in that pain, in that darkness, because it brings them something. It brings them money. Like I said, it's the best art. Pain is profitable. It just is in this society. It's sad, but it's true. As human beings, sometimes we do turn on reality TV to not feel so bad about our own lives. Like, that's what we use it for. Like, I could be honest and say that. Like, I could be honest, look, I just want to laugh at somebody doing something foolish. I could be honest and say that, probably not the best thing to do, but when I'm stressed, I don't know. And I'm also a therapist, so I also like to analyze people and try to guess what happened behind the scenes, or like try to guess their childhood. I wonder what would have happened, or if this was my client, how would I, approach the situation. Definitely like to do that. Everybody doesn't like to do that, but just to bring it back to just being human in general, sometimes we watch a movie or we watch a show or we listen to music to get our mind out of whatever the workday may have brought, but like I said, people have no idea. And just because people are on TV, just because people are popular, we think that they're perfect and they're the end all be all. And sometimes they even think that. Okay, I'm going to keep doing this. Because it's making me money, because they got too many people around them not really telling them the truth and not getting them help and not shutting things down. I know people protest about Britney Spears, right? People protest about her and, her conservatorship and her parents having control over her estate, and her not being able to perform. And 9 times out of 10, listen, mental illness, you don't just wake up with it. Certain things you are born with, but the things that take a while to show up, a lot of times that is because it's affected, or it was induced, or it's because point blank of your childhood and what you've experienced in your childhood that can drive you to mental illness. And honestly, we need to normalize that more, sidebar, because one thing that you learn when becoming a therapist, when going to school to become a therapist and learn the psychology of everything, everybody has something. There's a study showing that 60% of Americans experience some sort of childhood adversity. And I bet the number is probably higher because a lot of people don't know that certain things affect them. And a lot of the times, because it needs to be pointed out, everybody thinks that, I had a great childhood, or something happened to me, but, I pushed through and I'm fine today. But no, everything that happens to you, every little thing, it shows up, whether you realize it or not, good and bad things, right? Like I said before, people around you with this Britney Spears situations, people around her at the time probably saw signs, and because they were profiting off of her, didn't get her help soon enough. Different people you've seen that maybe have overdosed, suffer in silence and come out later and, admit, like Don Cornelius committed suicide, Robert Williams committed suicide. You think everybody is happy because they've been taught, okay, do this and you're successful. And the material things is just not it. It's just not it. And it's time that we all recognize that. We have to do the work. If I'm rambling, forgive me. I would hate for you to hate my podcast style, but I'm a person that thrives on being as honest as I can possibly be when it comes to my passion and trying to help people and inspire people. So you're going to get it raw, as raw as possible. But I can possibly go on and on about this topic and how it relates and how I feel as though it really does interfere with people's mental health when they are too focused on looking the part instead of actually being the part. Like, so many different ways, so many different routes I can go. Like, you probably seen a relationship that you envy. What was the recent thing that happened with the Smiths, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith? Like, people use people as idols, as like this is the blueprint of what I want to be or whatnot, and that's natural for us to do, you know. But a lot of times when you are letting everything in your life be dictated based off of somebody else's lifestyle, you gonna find yourself burned in the end if it does not turn out to be what you thought it was. You will, if you don't have a true sense of self. Okay. And I think every single time that things come out about celebrities or somebody that you knew of or somebody that you looked up to, anytime the truth comes out, I think it is a reflection of that person's trauma and what they haven't dealt with yet, and the part that we don't see. So the lesson in that is to really do the work on yourself, really heal. If you don't know what you want to do, if there's nothing that you could think about is you're passionate about, or if you're not doing the thing that you're passionate about, if you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to reach these societal norms, even though you have no idea if it will bring you true happiness by doing that and by achieving these things, because you're not necessarily passionate about it, you're just going through the motions to make somebody else proud, you really, really owe it to yourself to do the work. And by doing the work, I mean talk to somebody. I mean pay attention to yourself. Talk it out. Like, there was a picture of two ladies sitting in two chairs, and one lady was a therapist and one lady was a client, and they had these bubbles over their head, the comic book bubbles, so that shows you what somebody is thinking. And they had a ball of yarn all tangled up. You know how yarn could get tangled up, thread, any sort of string could get tangled up, right? And that was in the bubble of the client's head. And when you look at the bubble over the therapist's head, it was basically putting the yarn back together in a perfect ball, right? That's what therapists do. If you're stuck, if you're confused, if you keep hitting a wall when it comes to your life and the decisions that you make, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to allow someone, a therapist, a life coach, to help untangle that confusion, help remove those blocks. But help remove those blocks for you so you can get out of your own way, with your influences. And yes, I'm not saying that, it's not okay for you to find a mentor or, find somebody that inspires you, but always lead based off of your own convictions and what's in your heart once you figure out what that is. Okay. Once you get there, once you're passionate about that, something, give yourself permission. You be judge and jury of your own life. Don't waste it on somebody else's vision for your life, somebody else's box that they want to keep you in, that they're like, man, I'm just so confused. Why do you want to do this now? I never seen you doing that. No, go ahead, try it. See if it works for you. Don't let that stop you. Yes, it's easier said than done. I know. Because I had to fight through it. I had to push through it too. Because parents, they often have dreams for their children, right? And I think that's also a misconception. Another thing that goes with looking the part instead of being the part. A lot of us, especially us that are immigrants or come from parents that are immigrants, right? America feeds this dream of what success is to everybody, and everybody that comes here is expecting to get a piece of that dream and not knowing that, okay, this is not the end all be all, and it's not necessarily going to bring me true happiness. But a lot of our parents are just like, okay, if you do good, that makes me look good. True. It does, but what is it based off of? You want to be able to say, okay, I supported my child. Period. All right. I know we want to protect our children. I know we don't want them to get hurt. We don't want them to be crushed by failure. If we like, okay, you say you want to be a gymnast, but you can't even do a cartwheel. So what? Like, if that's what they want to be, you as a parent, as mom, as dad, because your word is gold. Go ahead, honey. I believe in you. Let's do this, right? And if you can't say that, whether you believe it or not, we got to do some reevaluation on you. All right? Because that, what a parent says to you sticks with you for the rest of your life. But a lot of us come from parents that are still stuck, and their parents were stuck into, let me look the part and not actually be the part. Like, what is going to sustain this dream that I have? What is going to make me feel accomplished really as a person? And it's not the material things. It's not the titles. It's not the who I have on my arm and what I possess. That's not what it is. Yes, it could bring you some joy for a short amount of time, but it should not define who you are, right? And yes, I know it's not realistic to believe that other people won't define you based off of that. You're right. It isn't. But at the end of the day, once you're gone, people move on with their lives. So why waste it? Why waste it being concerned about what they think is success? Why do that? That's a waste of time to me. Honestly, it is. Okay? Why waste it? So I implore you, I encourage you to not focus on keeping up with the Joneses and not doing the work. If you are married to somebody that has status and, looks good on paper, but it's not fulfilling you, leave. Okay? If you are at a job that everybody is so proud that you have, but you hate it, leave. If you are looking at society today and you're just like, I don't want to bring any children into this world, don't. Okay? No matter what people say, if you feel like, man, I want to be free, I want to be single and not have to worry about anybody else but me, don't get married. Okay? Don't. Or, find somebody that will agree to do that. All right? And don't settle based off of societal standards. If you say you want to worship darn pencils, go worship pencils. As long as you're not hurting nobody, be free. Okay? If you're struggling with your identity, yes, it's easier said than done because people get judged and attacked with racism, with violence against the LGBTQ community, with, all the different phobias out there, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, all the different phobias. Like, it's always somebody around the corner that is hateful, and because they're not secure in who they are, they feel like they got to step on somebody, right? Racism, that's the seed of all hatred towards people. All discrimination is people not being happy with themselves and not wanting to see anybody else happy, or wanting to feel powerful for stepping on somebody else's dream. All right. Somebody else's being, somebody else's purpose, because they've been lied to. Right. So they want to make other people feel small. That's the root of all of the hatred in the world. It is, because they feel like nothing. Even with all of their accomplishments, even with all their privilege, they still feel like nothing, right? Because they looking the part, not being the part. Okay? Remember that. And don't let that determine who you decide to be in this world. As long as you ain't causing no harm, as long as you're not around here doing the same thing that was done to you and that was hurtful to you, to anybody else, be free, flourish, and be who you want to be. I hope I didn't confuse you guys. If I did, I apologize. But you can tell me about it. I need you guys to follow me on social media at Live and Be Great. Okay? I need you to email me if you have any topics or, that you want me to discuss, or if you just want to reach out and, give me some support. You can email me at liveandbegreat.com. If you're looking for a life coach, go to liveandbegreat.com. I am accepting new clients. And if you just want to support this podcast, of course, the message will run itself in the end. But yeah, that information is in the outro of this show. I definitely hope that I have inspired you. I have motivated you, and I have educated you today. I really do, because I want people to flourish. And I believe that with more empathy creates more happiness and more understanding for people, and a better world for us all to live in if people just did the work on themselves. People saw themselves worthy enough to do the work and to have help without stepping on somebody else. Like, see a therapist, see a life coach. If you truly care about somebody, don't let them fall. Tell them the truth. Have them see somebody, right? With all the celebrities that have fallen, is a reason why they're falling. You take that as a sign that you don't have to hold them as God. They don't have to be the end all be all to success, right? Success comes from within, and it's based on who you are as a person, not on what you have. So, thank you guys for listening, and I will see you next time on Live and Be Great. Give yourself permission to actually be the part and not just look the part. The Live and Be Great podcast will be airing every other Friday. If you have truly enjoyed this podcast, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving Live and Be Great a chance. Please feel free to share, like, give a review, subscribe on whichever platform that you're listening to right now, on iTunes or Apple Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, as well as Google Play. The Live and Be Great podcast is strictly crowdfunded, so if you are interested in becoming a supporter, you can click the link in the description, or you can go to liveandbegreat.com and scroll to the bottom and donate to the Live and Be Great podcast today, so I can continue to give you good and motivational content. Thank you all for listening, and don't forget to give yourself permission to live and be great. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel, Live and Be Great. This channel will produce content that is both podcast and on-screen style. So if you're interested and you enjoyed today's show, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you soon.